There's important transition in the separation and divorce process where you're either going to make divorce a transition or you're going to get stuck in the past.
I find that people wrap their past around them so tightly that they're walking, as they walk into the future, it's just a recreation of their past. That's a tragedy.
You're going to go live out on your own in the Yukon for 3 months?
Yes, that's right.
I won't say you're crazy because I love the adventure side of it, but are you crazy?
No, I'm not crazy.
First comes love, then comes marriage, and well, pretty frequently these days, then comes divorce. Today, Divorce Detox, how you can move on with your life and not get stuck in the past. And then, could you survive for 90 days alone in the wilderness? We'll meet a woman who's going to try, willingly. Up first, divorce recovery expert Allison Pescosolido and Dr. Jayne Major from Breakthrough Parenting Services. Pleasure to have you back again today,
It's a pleasure to
Dr.
see
Major.
You again.
Thank you for
Allison.
having us.
Well, we've done shows about parent alienation and how, you know, these awful divorces with parents fighting over kids. But even without kids, I think people just have a hard time moving on.
They really do. I've been teaching parenting classes for 27 years. Many of them are people going through really awful divorces. And what I found is I see a lot of obsession about the other parent, just not willing to let go, or the multiple losses that the divorce brings into a person's life. And they need to grieve those losses. What I found...
Meaning the kids and the spouse and...
Well, in particular, the
friends,
parents.
I guess, everything.
Because they're the leaders of the family, and when they are suffering, constantly suffering. And also another thing, Gregory, that I discovered that's amazing is I would have always said, go to a therapist, go to a therapist. But therapists are not trained in grief recovery. It's a very highly specialized discipline. And when I discovered Andra and Allison at Divorce Detox, I said, fantastic.
Well, that sounds like pretty much what people need is detox. So how do you detox them?
They sure do. They sure do. We've developed a program where they come in and we lay the foundation for taking care of themselves, and then we move them slowly to the point where they can get closure from the past. Because there's important transition in the separation and divorce process where you're either going to make divorce a transition or you're going to get stuck in the past. So it's really important. Well, yeah, you know those people who, you know, never got over their ex and they never moved on to a relationship. So it's really important that you make this a transition, and then you can move on, and we hold the place to even have a better life than your past.
Is that the biggest problem you see? Just some kind of obsession with the ex, or what do you normally deal with?
A good question. Moving on is really challenging. Putting boundaries with your ex is, when people come to us, there really are no boundaries. It's really important to differentiate your intimate relationship in your marriage and the relationship with your ex, and it's much like a business relationship.
Well, you know, and even aside from divorce, I think a lot of times, even in dating, you know, people are talking about their exes like they're, I don't think they know that ex means like former. Sometimes they make it sound like extra, you know, and so they're always talking about their ex like they still got this thing going on or something. And but a lot of people do that, you know.
But the truth is, they do have this thing still going on. There's a common expression in divorce among divorce professionals is that they didn't get their emotional divorce. It may be all tidy and clean on a piece of paper that they're divorced, but if they don't have their emotional divorce, they're still hooked in. And I think that's why people become so obsessed and continually upset about what the ex does.
You say you have to change it into a business relationship.
It's really important, and Jayne brings up a really good point, that it's important to get closure for the emotional relationship you have with your ex. What most people don't know is that you get closure within yourself, and you get closure from certain steps that we have at Divorce Detox, but you really do not get closure emotionally with your ex. It's something you have to do alone. It's an inside job, as we call it.
So how would you help somebody do that? Somebody who just can't. I mean, I know people, I know names of course, but you know, who would read blogs and things that their exes had done, and I'd say, you know, why do you read that? Because you know it's just going to bother you. You know, so people do a lot of.
I find that people wrap their past around them so tightly that they're walking, as they walk into the future, it's just a recreation of their past. That's a tragedy. They don't ever get free so that they can create a life that really works for them and, by the way, for their children.
Well, you know, and one of your points I noticed when we were talking in advance about this, that I know people who go out on dates, someone who literally told me, they're like, the first thing she'll do when she sits down, I mean, I didn't ask her what she was just talking about when she went out. All she was doing was talk about her exes and why they broke up. And I thought, is that how you go out on a date and start? I don't even think I would mention that.
No.
You know, I mean, can you imagine just rehashing all your bad relationships on a date with somebody when you're just meeting them?
Turning everyone into your personal therapist.
Gregory, you bring up a really good point. And, you know, a lot of people confuse dating with processing emotionally, and you want to not talk about your past at all. When you're dating again, you want to develop a relationship in the present, and you do not want to talk about any of your ex-relationships.
That's bringing a lot of extra baggage along that you don't
Exactly.
need.
So that you can unpack it piece by piece.
You know, a lot of people in their marriages, they rely on their partner as emotional support, and it's really important to learn to get the emotional support yourself and to support yourself, and that's what we do in the program. And we empower people so that when they go through the program and then they meet other people and have other relationships, they don't bring their past relationships with them.
What percentage of people, I know I've kind of asked you this before, but you know, how often, well, the vicious divorces, I guess I'm saying, how common is that versus, you know, do you get a lot of just heartbreak or sadness, or how often are they just at each other's throats and they just want to
Kill each other.
Yeah.
We get a lot of heartbreak and sadness in general. We don't get, you know, there's many different steps that you go through, so the anger is going to be there, but we get the whole gamut, really. Anger is a process that if you don't deal with it, you're going to live in that place, but we help people get over that.
Well, and going back to the, well, getting over it, actually we have a guest for another show. I was just reading a book. He does wedding photography, and he said that at one of the weddings, the guy who was getting married, the groom, ex-girlfriend showed up in a wedding dress outside the church, and they had to like drag her away and put a wall of people and not let her in the church and send her in a taxi. But you know, can you imagine, that's like the worst case scenario, showing at your ex-boyfriend's wedding in a wedding dress. And
And the world of dirty tricks.
Exactly.
It's endless. And I hope that couple didn't have children, because those children suffer and suffer and suffer, and they become part of the enormous fatality psychologically. We're finding more and more people now, as they grow up, are having dysfunctional families because the children never learned what a functional family was in childhood, so they have no clue. And they attract the people that they were least finished with as a child, and therefore they recreate the past. So these disturbed people are on the rise.
we'll be right back. And we are back with Allison Pescosolido, divorce recovery expert. And joining us now is psychologist Dr. Andra Brosh. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
So during the break we were talking, and you said that, you know, a lot of the people who are seeking help may not be your typical people in a sense, because a lot of people don't get help. But you see a lot of professionals or attorneys and doctors, that sort of business people, who are maybe a little more proactive about it.
Yeah, we have highly functioning clients who have very together lives. All of a sudden they're hit with a divorce and they recognize that it's really important to get help. But typically they're a little hesitant also because they're so highly functioning.
It's challenging for them. It's challenging to reach out. There's a lot of shame. They don't really understand what's going on with them, so it tends to be difficult to get the help that they need.
But at the same time, it's really important to recognize that going through separation or divorce is very similar to having a war inside of you. Everything that you know up until now is changing. And you just want, there's really no place to put your feet because you don't know what your future is going to look like. So these highly functioning people are, well, their brains are slower, research shows. People get into accidents during this time.
Really?
Productivity goes down. People have more sick days. So it's important to get the help because then you can make this a transition.
What are some things that people do that you shouldn't do? I mean, are there some big no-nos that you just say that, you know, look, if you're getting a divorce, never do this? I'm sure there are probably a lot, but I think some things in particular that just...
Yeah. Well, one of the ones you mentioned was when people check their Twitter or the blogging that is going on with their ex. We see that a lot, and it is devastating. It's like sticking a knife back in your heart every time.
Went out on a date with so-and-so last night.
Exactly,
and, you know.
and it's really, really devastating for people, and they don't realize, I think they feel like they're actually more in control, but it ends up causing more pain and suffering. So we see that a lot.
And I've actually heard of cases where I think they're kind of communicating with each other indirectly because like the one knows the other one will be looking at it, so then they kind of go for the jugular.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what Allison spoke to before also in terms of setting boundaries, that a lot of times people just don't have the tools or the skills to set the proper boundaries with this new relationship with their ex, and that can be very damaging for them as well.
Well, the one thing I wonder, now on the one hand, I mean, we talk about putting it behind you and moving on and turning it into business, which I understand, again, when you see the opposite, when people don't do that. But on the other hand, you do hear about people staying friends, and somehow that does seem kind of like a good idea if they can actually keep it on a human level. So how can you stay friends versus just dropping it entirely to,
contention?
You can stay friends, but you also treat your friends with respect. So it's really important if you want to stay friends that you treat your ex with respect. Don't get really into your little details of your life, especially dating. It would be best to go out, be in the relationship with an open heart and more on a business level just to start with, and you could develop the relationship as things go. But what happens is it's really challenging at the beginning. Heartbreak is something that it's easy to say what to do, but when it comes to really doing it, it's challenging. So that's why.
Yeah, the thing about that, I mean, I completely agree with that. It's easy for us to sit here and say all this, but on the other hand, we're right in the sense that when you're in it, you're not really, you know what those people are telling you is correct. It's hard to do it because you're actually in it, but you'd probably tell somebody else the same thing yourself, So it's kind of like, as hard as it may be, sometimes you have to somehow put yourself outside of that or learn how to, well, I guess that's what you're there for, to deal with. But because you know what I mean? Because you know that you can't really deal with it that way.
It's very uncomfortable, and you're doing a lot of things that you aren't used to doing. And that's why in our program, we're teaching you all these things, because during this time, most of life is just hard to handle.
Yeah, and I think partly what you're talking about is the conflict between your brain and your heart. And it's very hard, and you sort of need to separate the two, and we really focus on healing the heart a lot, because the heart...
So how do you heal the heart?
Through this long process.
How long does it take? Okay, we're saying long. I mean, I know I'm generalizing here, but are we talking months, years?
I'm a clinical psychologist, so I worked with people individually, and one of the reasons why I do what I do with Allison and why we developed this program is because there is this missing piece in therapy where you actually do need to take specific steps to move forward and to heal. Grief is a large part of it. So in the individual therapy, there's a lot of processing and feelings and things like that, but it's sort of missing this other part of action steps, and the group support piece is huge. People feel so alienated when they're going through a divorce, so we offer that support as well. So there's a lot of steps that they need to take, and we offer that over a 10-week course. And
we offer a 10-week course. We also work individually with people, and in the fall we're coming out with a membership website which will help people nationwide.
Well, again, going back to the idea of exes and the boundaries and remaining friends and all of this as well, I interviewed a divorce attorney fairly recently, and he was saying that from his experience over the years, one of the biggest disasters he sees is when exes get back together again or remarry. Like something like statistically, like 90% of the time it doesn't work. It's even less successful the second time around than the first time. What do you think about that? Like I say, on the one hand, it's always great to think positive and hope they'll get along, or but Does that generally work out from your experience when they get back together?
We do know that statistics show that remarriage in general, the divorce rate goes up. And we really believe that's because people don't do the work they need to do to understand what went wrong in the marriage in the first place. So if you're remarrying somebody and you didn't look at what went wrong in that marriage or what wasn't healthy, you're likely to get divorced again.
That's what the attorney said, that a lot of people just do the same thing all over again. You know, you would all think everybody learns all these great life lessons from the divorce, but actually they just keep on doing what they were.
Yeah, and there's a tendency to fantasize. You know, when you're getting divorced, you're not only just divorcing the person, you're divorcing this dream that typically you had when you were a child to get married forever and ever. So this, a lot of times, you know, we work with that, but without specific action steps. A lot of these beliefs and fantasies you've been keeping you've had your whole life, they will continue. And so people tend to get back with their ex because they also tend to fantasize about what happened and forget what was
happily
reality.
ever after or something.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you both very much,
Thank you.
Dr. Brosh and Allison Pescosolido.
Thank you so much, Gregory.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. And we are back. Joining me now is Sherry Lee. Great to have you here today, Sherry.
Thank you.
Well, I love to travel, but I think you have me beat by a mile because you're going to go live out on your own in the Yukon for 3 months.
Yes, that's right.
I won't say you're crazy because I love the adventure side of it. But are you crazy?
No, I'm not crazy. Very down to earth, very much common sense type of person.
Well, when we talked in advance on the phone, you said you're just a regular woman with a regular job who's going to go live in the wilderness for 3 months.
Yes, that's right. This challenge was started last year by a gentleman from the UK. His name is Ed Wardall. He went up to the Yukon and spent only 50 days out of the challenge.
So he didn't make it the 90 days.
He did not make it to the 90 days.
Do you think you're going to make it the whole way?
Absolutely. Mother Nature's on my side. She's a woman. I got it made.
Now, I should say you've done some other extreme stuff too. You've ridden a bicycle across the country?
Yes, I've gone on very long bicycling trips, carry my own gear, pretty independent.
How long does that take to ride a bicycle across the country?
About 2.5 months.
Wow.
The way I did it. I camped a lot along the way. Other than when there was bad rainstorms for several days, I would get a hotel and that type of thing. So
you had a little bit of a backup plan. But you don't have a hotel, you don't have a backup plan here for the Yukon.
No, no.
Now, I was thinking about this since we've been talking, and I mean, okay, first of all, bears.
Huge
I mean,
concern.
Animals. You're out there by yourself, right? Literally. What are you going to be out there with? Do you have a tent or a structure? What are you living in?
Yes, I will take basic necessities, just the same pretty much footprint that Ed Wardall used. I will have a rifle. He took 2. I'm only going to take 1. I'll have a tent. I'll also have a canoe. When they fly me into the lake, there'll be a canoe strapped to the pontoon of the airplane. And I'll be able to use that, and that'll be my main form of transportation, is that canoe.
Now, clothes and food. I know in your material I was reading, you're big on traveling light. I mean, really light. I think I go light. You go light, or 1 outfit or 2 outfits. How many outfits are you going to? How much clothing are you going to have with you? It's
going to be minimal. Definitely be minimal. But I will have to dress for cold, because at the end of this, there's a good chance I'll have 1 or 2 weeks of snow. And it'll be warm as well, but it's definitely going to be very damp. A lot of rain.
You're planning to do this in June of 2011?
Yes.
But it will still be cold. I mean, it's summer, but it's still cold.
Yes, the lake is just thawed out in May. So when I fly in the 1st of June, it's still going to be on the chilly side.
Do you have any concerns about this? I mean, I was thinking, truthfully, you know, I was trying to put myself in the woods, imagining myself this. Number one, there's the loneliness issue, I think, after a while, because you're going to be completely cut off communication-wise. No Twitter, no Facebook, no mobile phones, no...
Correct.
Okay. And then even, you know, I thought at night, that's going to be really dark. Even during the day, I think I'd see like Bigfoot around the corner or something. I don't know, but that doesn't bother you, the whole...
I'm sure with that much time, 90 days, I will have some periods of fright. And I think anyone would. But it's a matter of, again, staying calm, always evaluating the situation that you're in, and going with the flow. You can only do one thing at a time anyway, so.
Now the idea is there's going to be, you're shooting video as well, and the idea is to turn this into a TV show or reality show type of thing, or adventure or documentary, something like that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I will be doing all of the video work. Once a week, I'm going to have an airplane fly in, and at a designated location there'll be a box, and I'll be able to put my spent film, my spent batteries into this box, and they will deliver fresh film and fresh batteries. But there'll be never ever be any contact with anyone.
So that's your only communication with the outside world, is just dropping this film off and picking up the batteries?
That's right. And that way people will be able to follow along. We'll add the information to a website, so you can always plug into the website, and I'll have a GPS device so you can follow as far as where I'm going in the mountains and follow me around on a map.
And you said you do have a distress signal or a panic button so that if something goes really wrong?
Yes, I do.
You can hit the 911 button and...
Yes, yes, I'm going to carry a spot GPS device. It looks just like this, and what it does is it has 3 or 4 different types of messages that I can leave. One I can push every day that will say, yes, I'm okay. And the other one, the last one, is 911, I'm hurt real bad, please come get me as soon as possible. Now, the float plane takes an hour and 40 minutes from Whitehorse to fly all the way in to pick me up. So
it won't
nothing
be
will be
assistance.
fast. Right.
Well, the other thing people might wonder is, how, for instance, you told me you have a regular job. I mean, you work 9 to 5, but you're able to swing this without, you don't have to tell me where you work, but you were able to take time off, or?
Yes, yes, I'm saving my vacation, and I will take a short leave of absence. They're not real happy about it, but they are supportive, so I'm very fortunate in that respect. I truly am. Yeah.
Oh, you'll come back famous.
I hope so. I hope so. Yes, it's going to be a great challenge.
And without getting too personal, though, I think the other thing that people may wonder, are you married or do you have kids, or you're not going to be talking to anybody for 3 months? I mean, how do you handle that side of it?
Yes, I do have a large family, but I do not have any children of my own. I'm engaged at the time, and my fiance is very supportive. He's very cautious and concerned, just like my family, especially my dad, is not real happy about this. But they're very supportive as well.
Well, any idea where you go for the honeymoon then? I mean, you take him out in the wilderness for 3 months?
Somewhere real warm with lots to eat. No, maybe Bali or somewhere nice and warm. Yeah.
Food. You're gonna cook and kill or pick, or what do you do for food?
Yes, I'll be doing a lot of fishing, and I'll be doing some hunting, and then hopefully I'm going to find a lot of plants to eat, things like that in the area. I've been doing a lot of study on that. I do want to work with a Native American prior to going to the Yukon area, and they're going to be able to show me a lot of the different plants that I'll be able to eat.
Because you need to know what you can eat and what you can't eat.
Absolutely, because there are some there that I cannot eat that will poison me to death. So.
And again, I hate to say this because I really commend you for doing this, but but I think of Into the Wild, which I saw, which unfortunately did not have a happy ending.
Yes. Yes. Yes, in fact, some of those same plants that gentleman was, unlucky enough to eat is in the area. And the problem is, it's a very starch plant. It has a lot of energy in it, so you have to watch very carefully what you eat in that respect.
And with the bears, you said, well, you've got the gun and I guess pepper spray, or?
Yes, to this day I carry bear pepper spray with me almost anywhere I go in the mountains. I carry it all the time. And it has the advantage, it shoots 30 feet, so if there's another critter that could be following you or giving you a hard time.
Because it's not just bears, it could be what, mountain lions, or I don't know what.
Mountain lions, wolves, I've used them on a coyote before, where I had a coyote that just acted strange. But 30 feet is a good distance to keep between you and the critter. So.
I agree with that and shake my head on that one. Thank you very much, Shirley. I wish you all the success in the world, and I hope you'll come back after your 90 days and tell us all about it. That's so amazing.
Absolutely, I truly will. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.